Happens when the world's most oil-rich kingdom decides oil is no longer its future. In 2016, Saudi Arabia admitted something most petrostates never say out loud: we are addicted to oil. And addiction is dangerous, because when your entire economy runs on one resource, one crash can change everything. For decades, Saudi Arabia was simple. Oil goes out, money comes in, the government spends. The system works. Oil-funded highways, universities, entire cities. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Oil is brutally volatile. In 2014, prices collapsed. Government revenues fell nearly 50%. Budget deficits exploded. And suddenly, the model didn't look so stable. Most people think Saudi Arabia pivoted because they wanted to modernize, but the reality was harsher. They had to, because the world was changing. Electric vehicles, renewable energy, climate politics, a global push toward net zero emissions. The message was clear. The oil age will not last forever, and if you wait until it ends, you're already too late. That's when Vision 2030 was born. In 2016, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman launched what might be one of the boldest economic transformations in modern history. The goal? Turn Saudi Arabia from an oil-dependent state into a diversified economic powerhouse. Now here's what makes this different. Most diversification plans fail. Countries announce grand visions, oil prices recover, and suddenly reform urgency disappears. Comfort returns. Saudi didn't go back to comfort. They doubled down. They leveraged one of the largest sovereign wealth funds in the world, the Public Investment Fund, hundreds of billions of dollars. Instead of letting oil profits sit idle, they turned them into fuel for the future. Invested globally. Technology companies, gaming giants, electric vehicle startups, sports franchises. At the same time, they built industries at home from scratch. Tourism, entertainment, logistics, mining, technology. 15 years ago, large-scale concerts and global sporting events in Saudi Arabia were unthinkable. Today, they are routine. This wasn't cosmetic change, it was structural. Here was the old model. Oil revenue flows to the government. The government distributes salaries and benefits. Citizens depend on the state. That's not a private economy, that's a distribution system. Vision 2030 attempts to flip that structure. Expand the private sector. Attract foreign investment. Encourage entrepreneurship. Increase non-oil revenue. Grow tourism. Bring more women into the workforce. Shift the mindset of an entire generation. And progress has been measurable. Non-oil revenues have risen significantly. Tourism numbers have surged. Female workforce participation has climbed dramatically in less than a decade. That's not incremental reform. That's societal restructuring. But this pivot wasn't risk-free. Massive mega-projects like NEOM and the Red Sea developments require staggering amounts of capital. Critics argue they are too ambitious, too expensive, too futuristic. And honestly, that criticism isn't irrational. If oil prices had remained depressed for years, funding these projects would have been far more difficult. But here's the strategic twist. Saudi Arabia didn't bet against oil. They used oil as a transition engine. When prices rebounded, they didn't slow reforms, they accelerated them. That discipline is rare. At the same time, the pivot extended beyond economics. Saudi Arabia repositioned itself geopolitically, strengthening ties across major global powers, pursuing regional stability, opening itself geopolitically, strengthening ties across major global powers, pursuing regional stability, opening itself diplomatically, because a diversified economy requires diversified alliances. Investors demand predictability. Tourism requires stability. Global business demands integration. Then there's the cultural shift. Economic blueprints mean nothing without social transformation. If young people only want government jobs, private sector growth stalls. So reforms extended into labor markets, education, mobility, and entrepreneurship. A new generation is being encouraged to think differently about work, risk, and opportunity. And that might be the most important shift of all. Not the skyscrapers, not the megacities, the mindset. So why does the Saudi pivot appear to be working when so many resource-rich nations struggle to diversify? Because they understood a brutal truth. Oil wealth is finite. Control over capital and strategy is not. Most countries reform when they are desperate. Saudi Arabia began reform while it still had financial power. That timing changes everything. This isn't about replacing oil tomorrow. Oil remains central, but the goal isn't abandonment. It's optionality. When global demand eventually plateaus or declines, Saudi Arabia doesn't want to be reacting. It wants to be ready. The real question is this: Is Saudi Arabia building the most successful post-oil blueprint of the 21st century? Or is it constructing the most expensive economic experiment in history? And the outcome won't just shape Saudi Arabia. It could redefine how the world thinks about life after oil.